Welcome to the Population Biology webcast. So what is a population? A population is a group of organisms of the same species in the same area that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring. Key things here are that they are the same species, so taxonomy-wise they are going to have the same scientific name. They need to be in the same geographic area, which allows them to breed. Now, there's four basic things. Number one is geographic distribution or range. This is the area that a population lives in. So a lot of times if we look on a map, we will find out the particular range of a species. For example, hopefully you can see this. If we look at these two different owls and compare them, what's in green here, that's the range. So this owl, a great horned owl, as you know is my favorite, lives everywhere in the United States. But this whiskered screech owl only lives just a little bit into Arizona and down into Mexico. So that range is kind of where we can find them. Also, population density is the number of individuals per unit area. For example, we're not sure what that means. If this is, let's say this is a meter squared and we're studying dandelions. Your yard, you've been spraying it with pesticide, with herbicide to kill dandelions. We find 3 dandelions per meter squared. Another yard, the neighbor's yard, they don't treat their yard with herbicide, and we measure over there, and they have just a whole bunch of dandelions, okay, maybe 20 per meter squared. So this is high density, and this would be lower density. The density can really determine how much, determine the amount of resources there are in an area and how much competition there is for those particular resources. Next thing is population growth rate. So this is an increase or decrease in the number of individuals in a population over time. So we want to take a look at how many individuals are being added or removed from that population by birth or death or moving in and out. Fourth characteristic here is population dispersion or distribution. This is the pattern of spacing among the individuals within a geographic distribution. First thing here, clumped. This is going to be most common. Clumped distribution are pack hunting. Think of wolves. We might also think of protection in numbers. And there also might be a abundance of a particular resource in an area, so these organisms are going to be gathered around a resource. Our next one here is even. As you can see, there's an even distribution of these trees here. You can kind of see they almost have a bit of a bubble around them, and this would be their particular resources that they need. So they have created a bit of a pattern here of even distribution. Those that try to start to grow in this area, let's say a little plant try to grow in here, they don't get enough sun, maybe not enough water to compete with the established plant, so they'll end up dying off. All right, this is also, if we're looking at animals, this can suggest animals that are territorial. And then finally here, our third, this is our least common. In nature, and one of the major causes here would be wind-blown seeds. And those wind-blown seeds as they kind of taken by the wind like dandelions, they land anywhere if there's enough moisture there for those seeds to germinate and grow, then they'll grow there. So as we can see, there's groups of 3, there's groups of 2, there's singles. There's no real pattern that we can tell. So that's population dispersion or distribution. Population growth, what factors affect the population size? A couple things here. We want to look at the number of births, the number of deaths, and also the number of individuals that enter or leave a population. So if our birth rate is greater than our death rate, we can see an increase in the population. If it was flipped around, the death rate was higher than the birth rate, there's going to be a decrease in the population. But a real simple equation here, we could take growth rate equals our birth rate plus our immigration. Okay, so how many are added by births and how many are added by immigration or moving into a population, minus our death rate plus immigration. So we'll add these together, how many total were removed from the population, find the difference, and we'll see if our population is growing or decreasing. It's just a real simple form of population growth. Immigration is moving into an area. Sometimes since it starts with an I think immigration is in, and this is increase by animals in search of mates or food. They're coming from an outside population. So this is also important, increasing the amount of genetic diversity within a population gene pool. Immigration, again, is moving in. Emigration, when I see this E, I think exit, and so this is individuals moving out. Emigration can occur when animals leave to find mates or establish new territories, or if there's a shortage of food or shortage of other resources, they kind of have the option to move away and find new resources, or they're going to stay there, probably end up dying. So let's take a look at different types of population growth that can occur. One is exponential growth. So under ideal conditions, so there's unlimited resources, the population will grow exponentially. This occurs when the populations reproduce at a constant rate. And this is represented by a J-shaped growth curve. And you can see it, a lot of times these are going to start out very small as the population grows at a constant rate. It could be doubling every time, it could be growing by a certain percentage every time, but it's going to continue, and eventually when you get up to the higher numbers, the population begins to grow really quickly. And again, we want to know this is a J-shaped curve, is exponential growth. Second kind of growth here is logistic growth. So in nature, exponential growth does not continue. It happens, but it does not continue for very long. Resources become less available, and our population slows, or our population growth slows, or it can stop altogether. And this is represented by an S-shaped growth curve because we see our exponential growth for a while until we reach our carrying capacity. Our carrying capacity is going to determine the number of individuals that an environment can support. And there again is our definition, the largest number of individuals that a population for a given environment. So we've got to look at the number of resources that are available. Food, water, shelter, and space are some main components of habitat that are factors in the carrying capacity. When a population reaches the carrying capacity of an environment, the growth levels off. Hence, we have our S shape, and this is the leveling. And notice that there's some fluctuation around the carrying capacity because we'll be a little bit under, so we'll have a higher birth rate than death rate, a little bit over, so there's not enough resources, so our death rate will be a little bit higher, and we'll just hover right around that carrying capacity. What factors might limit population growth? So one thing, the primary productivity of an ecosystem can be reduced when there's insufficient supply of a particular nutrient. So primary productivity is really, and we can call some of these particular resources limiting nutrients. And if it's a particular nutrient that is needed, this is another thing that we can refer to as a limiting factor. Limiting factor is going to be anything that's going to prevent a population from continually growing. So limiting factor, one example, are limiting nutrients. There's two types of limiting factors. One is density dependent. So as the density increases, we're going to see this particular factor amplified a little bit. So the more organisms there are, the more competition. The more organisms there are, the more predation can occur. The more organisms are, the more parasitism can occur. And diseases are easily transmitted when densities are high. Those are density dependent limiting factors. If population densities are low, then we're going to have less of each of these factors. And again, they're going to be the strongest when the population are large and dense. All right. So our competition, populations become crowded, organisms compete for food, water, shelter, space, sunlight, everything that is essential for survival. We can also, another factor here we might want to take a look at is the predator-prey relationship, where the main resource for our wolves here are the moose that it eats. So you can see as our moose population increases, there's going to be an increase in our wolf population, and if our wolf population is too high, there's going to be a big drop-off in our moose population because all the wolves are eating the moose, and it just kind of plays back and forth like so, and that's an important balance in nature that we can look at, our predator-prey relationships. Another type of limiting factor are density independent. It doesn't matter what the population size is, this is still going to impact a population. If there's unusual weather, maybe it's a really early frost or really hot days in a row, maybe a drought, natural disasters, seasonal cycles are going to impact. If we look outside, we're going to find fewer and fewer insects as the weather gets colder. So that seasonal cycle is making that population decrease. And then certain human activities, many things, habitat destruction, are really going to impact populations no matter what the size. And that's a quick overview of population biology. There's a quiz that follows, so make sure you use your notes for that quiz. And if you need to go back and jot down a few more notes, feel free to do so.